wanted to jump on and just drop a few seeds here in what is a huge subject. I wanted to talk a little bit about praise and criticism. It impacts all of us, all of us. If you're human, it impacts you. I just finished a masterclass in my Mayas for Magic group, and this was the topic of our last class, Unhooking from Praise and Criticism. And the teacher teaching what she has to learn, of course. I'm getting so many glorious opportunities to practice what I teach. So if you're joining, say hello. Hi, Marcy. Good to see you. You may have noticed if you followed some of my recent posts, my Too Much Woman speech was shared yet again by Goldcast, which is so lovely. And with that always comes an onslaught of like 99% people saying, I love it, I love it, I love it, it's so amazing. And you get a couple of people just throwing some darts at you. And I've shared some of those responses, and I shared the reason why I shared those responses. Everything from, you're a heifer, sit down, big fat dog, whatever. Okay. And then I got some, so I responded to that, but then I got some criticism actually just very recently, like an hour ago. Someone who asked me to use my platform to support her political views. And I declined, and it wasn't well received. And I got a lot of criticism for not using my platform for the greater good to save the world or save the town or save the city. I can't remember what she said. Hi, Brenda. And so it has me once again revisiting criticism and praise and the role that it plays in all of our lives all the time. Each one of us is being constantly confronted with the what will they think. And while it's very popular to say, I don't care, I don't give a damn, frankly, my dear, the truth is we do care. And the only people I know that don't care are little children and psychopaths. So caring is a part of our humanity. And while I'm on this journey of learning how to manage praise and criticism, it would be untruthful and unuseful for me to say to you, you get to a point where you just don't care. In fact, I don't even know that that's desirable, but that's a whole other conversation. So I just want to give you a couple of thoughts around how to manage praise and criticism. Again, this is like a 90-minute call in my masterclass, but I just wanted to share a few bits because it's so relevant for me recently, and I know it's what almost all of you are challenged with all the time. Hi, Isa. Hi, Brenda. And we do care, and I think in a lot of ways we should care, because we do not live in isolation. We don't live in caves. And so if we want to have meaningful relationships, which are the heart of our human experience, truly, then it requires us to care on some level what people think. But I want to give you some parameters, if that's helpful. So, as I said, I was recently criticized in huge ways, a lot of ways. And a lot of them, I will say a lot of them don't faze me. Like getting comments like, you big fat this or you big fat that. I mean, they're strangers. Most of them, when I look at their profile, they're young guys from countries where this is the norm, and it doesn't have a lot of value for me. However, there is a place for feedback. I don't call it constructive criticism because that's actually an oxymoron. Construct means to build up. Criticize means to tear down. So there's no such thing as constructive criticism. I like to use the language of feedback. So when I get feedback from people, there are a few parameters that I look at to decide where that's going to sit with me, how much it's going to impact me, and what I'm going to do with that. So I want to just offer a couple of things to you. One of the parameters is it's really important to know your audience. It's really important to consider who should I really care about. And I think for every situation, it's going to be a little bit different. If I'm making a decision within my family, then I'm really going to care about what my family thinks. If I'm making a decision that's a business decision, I'm going to think about what my client, the impact of my client and the feedback that I get. Every situation is going to be a little bit different. But you can't please everyone all the time. So we know this, right? So really, I really want you to think about whose opinion or perspective matters in that particular situation. Again, keep in mind it's always going to change. So when my mom, for example, gives me feedback on how much cleavage I'm showing in a picture on my social media, I love my mother and I respect her dearly. However, this is my space and I know my space. And what matters to me is my audience and demonstrating or making a point with my audience. If someone has an opinion about my home and my children and me touring and how I'm raising them, there are some people that matter, whose feedback matters to me, that I want to take into account, and some people who absolutely don't. So I want to demonstrate that it's important in that particular situation that you get really clear about whose opinion matters. Now, in that stance, I also want to say that anyone's feedback, anyone's opinion of you, whether it's praise or criticism, doesn't tell you about your value and your worth. I know you've heard this before, but I want to say it maybe in a different way. When somebody criticizes you or someone is praising you, either way, it says less about your value. Let's say this beautiful picture. I didn't make this. This is a gift from my darling Bev. She just sent this for my birthday. This is gorgeous, isn't it? Doesn't she kind of look like me? Her butt's not as big as it should be, but okay. So let's say I made this and I share it with 3 friends and I say, what do you think? Do you like this? If they all say, I kind of like it, but it's not really my taste. Like it's not, I think it's a little like this, or it's a little bit that, or some criticism. Their opinion of my art, again, this isn't mine. Their opinion of my art doesn't say anything about the value or the worth of the art. What it does do, however, is it informs me of their preference and their opinion. And if in that situation that's important to me, I'm going to take it into account. So if my kids make a drawing when they were like 3 or 4 and they made a drawing of like flowers for me, and I show it to 3 people and I ask them, what's the value of this? It's not going to be valuable to them, but it's valuable to me. So the audience is important. But I also want to say, if I'm pitching to a client or I have a customer, if I'm pitching an idea around the house to my teens about how much I want them to clean or help me around the house, I have to be mindful of how my communication is landing. So what I'm here to say is we cannot X out completely people's feedback if we're going to be effective, if we're going to have good relationships, if we're going to make a point land. We have to take into consideration if their feedback is relevant to the situation. Are you following me so far, or am I speaking in circles? Yeah, the only reason I'm in full makeup is because I just came off an interview, so this isn't normally what I look like on a Sunday night. Okay, so having said all that, think about your audience. In that particular situation, if you're being criticized for something, or if they're giving you feedback for something, I want you to really think about, are they an important part of this conversation? If the answer is no, then you really have to release them, okay? If the answer is yes, that their feedback is important to that conversation, then you really have to look at what are their preferences? Like what's important about their opinion? Because then we want to take that information and we want to use it, and we want to be able to massage the way that we deliver our message. Having said all this, I do want to give you like one thing that you can use in the moment. This is what I think of all the time. So the woman who recently criticized me for she wanted me to back her political stance, and she was very angry that I was using my energy the way that I was using my energy, making silly TikTok videos or talking about X, Y, and Z, instead of doing something that's actually going to impact and change the world. So I really had to sit with what she said. And first of all, there's so many first of alls. Okay, so first of all, I had to really decide, is she the audience that is my message is for? No, she is not. Okay, so that's number one. So she doesn't get a say. But number two, What I know, what has worked for me is in this space and in my platform, okay, I have taken on a few topics, um, owning my too muchness and celebrating it, owning my body, my sexuality, my self-expression, all of these things, standing up for myself as a woman. I've taken on these subjects as the forefront. I can't save the world. There are many topics I care about. I care about the environment. I care about young girls being educated. I care about animals. I care about, oh gosh, there's a million things that I care about, and I cannot address all of them here. So the universe has brought me this opportunity to talk about Too Much Woman and all of those things. So that's where I'm focusing my attention. Okay, number 2. So that's number 2. This is what I care about. But number 3, and this is a question that I posed to my group the other day. I want you to ask yourself this. What is more important than praise? What is more important to you than acceptance? What is more important to you than getting everyone's buy-in? So when you're criticized or when you get feedback that makes you uncomfortable, I want you to really sit with this question, because we all want to be liked, and we all want approval, and we all want people to say yes to us, and we all want people to understand us, and we all want people to approve of us, and we all want people to support us. We want these things, but it's not going to happen all the time. So my question to you is, what is more important than getting their approval? And I'm going to give you, had to write this down. I just did this exercise for myself because this woman was not happy with me. So I had to really sit with myself. So what is more important to me than getting this woman's approval, than having her understand my stance? What's more important to me is integrity. What's more important to me is honesty, self-honesty, being honest with myself and what I care about most. What's more important to me is liking myself. Like I like myself when I make decisions that are for me. What's more important to me is peace of mind. I have peace of mind talking about the things that I talk about as opposed to someone else's agenda. What's more important to me is my message. What's more important to me is dignity, compassion, being useful, proving that it can be done, demonstrating in this space that a woman can be all the things. That's important to me. That's more important to me than her approval or anyone's approval. So I want you to think of that phrase whenever you're getting harshly criticized for something and you want to people please, you want to bend, you want to contort, you want to crumble, you feel overwhelmed, you want to appease, because we do care and we should care in some instances. But I also want you to ask yourself, what's more important than being liked in this moment? What's more important to me than having their approval? What's more important to me than them even understanding? So, I had a back and forth with this woman where I explained to her, I can appreciate that you want my support for your political, agenda or stance. But that's not my priority. That's not where the energy of me wants to live. And there was a lot of back and forth, and I had to sit with myself and say, what's more important to me than her understanding? What's more important to me than her getting it? What's more important to me than her approval? And it's all of those things. And hopefully that's helpful to you, because I've asked that question of myself in many different instances, because I've made some huge changes in my life in the past year. A lot of people, I don't get the opportunity to sit down. I'm not public about them. I'm public about a lot of shit, but I'm not public about everything. And I don't have the opportunity to sit with people and say, let me just explain my reasoning. Let me explain so that you love me and you approve of me. I don't have that opportunity. And so people, jump to their own conclusions. They make up their own stories. And it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard. It's hard not to want to explain. It's hard not to publicly say, like me again. These are all the reasons. Maybe if you understood, you'd have some compassion. I have to just release it. And so I have to say to myself, I use this exercise, what's more important to me than their approval is being in integrity. What's more important to me is knowing that I'm doing the right thing for me and for my family. What's more important to me is peace of mind. What's more important to me is really taking into consideration the people who I am focused on taking care of. So those are the kinds of things that I ask myself.